back to Lifestyle Blueprints podcast episode number 9 with a good friend, Josh Reyes. He's a retired powerlifter. He's a six-figure entrepreneur, and he's also now a real estate agent. He's achieving all facets of life and all facets in the professional industry. So hope you guys stay tuned for this episode and enjoy this episode. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Lifestyle Blueprints with Jordan Dang and episode number 11 with a special individual, special guest, Josh Reyes. I know him through powerlifting as well as kind of Instagram, that community with powerlifting. But I just want to thank you so much, Josh, for coming on to the podcast to speak about your life, your academic and professional experiences so far. You're a person who I always kind of looked up to in terms of like your business, and we'll get into that in this episode. So yeah, welcome. And I'm going to enjoy this conversation.
Perfect. Thanks for having me, Jordan. I was excited when you reached out, and I'm glad we can make this happen.
Great. So for the viewers and listeners, can you kind of give them like a perspective or an inside look into your life and I guess an introduction of who you are?
Yeah. So my name is Josh. I'm born and raised in Ottawa. I've been an entrepreneur since the beginning. Before I even knew it, kind of trying to do little side hustles in high school, just trying to get some extra cash. I didn't really consider that entrepreneurial. It was just a fun thing to do. And then after that, I went to Carleton University and studied, and I absolutely loved it there. And that's when I started my first company, LVD Fitness. And from there, we grew it up to our full-time gig. And now we're in the process of selling it. So that was really exciting. Moved on from that, and then now I'm full swing real estate agent.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's take it back to the roots. You grew up in Ottawa. Why did you choose to go to Carleton, and what program did you kind of get into?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I didn't really think of leaving the city, mainly from a financial standpoint. I didn't come from a really rich family, so I had to pay for school for myself, OSAP and loans. So I figured Ottawa might be a good spot. So I considered both Carleton and Ottawa U, and there was just something about Carleton that really drawn me there. And I've had mutual friends who went through the program, so I felt like it was a good fit. I went in to business in accounting specifically, and mainly because that was the most marketed concentration, right? Like you see everyone being a CPA, and then there's like Facebook ads and whatever about it. So I'm like, okay, why not? Let's do marketing. And then after 2 years of doing accounting. And then 2 years of doing accounting, I realized I didn't really like accounting, and I looked at other options. And from there, I was like, okay, well, I like marketing, but you didn't really need a marketing degree to go the marketing route. And then I also like entrepreneurship, but you didn't need an entrepreneur degree to be an entrepreneur. So I ended up landing on information systems, which is IS, and that's more like the tech and data side of business. Because when I looked at my trajectory and potential career paths, you needed that kind of degree to even get a start. So that's where I ended up. Yeah.
Perfect. So can you kind of tell me the experience, your academic experience at Carleton and in that program?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I got involved a little bit later than I wanted to within the business school community. It wasn't until my second year or third year until I started joining different clubs. I started playing like rec leagues through the business school. But one of the most important ones that I found was the JDC. So that's like their business competing club. But to me, I was really athletic guy, and I wanted to be in the sports area. So I tried out for the sports team, did that, but I also was able to network through other people within the business school, but also meeting other cool people during the competitions that we did every year.
True, that's awesome. So how much would you say the impact of your education has had on your, I guess, your professional career right now, like networking opportunities and the experiences that you gained during undergrad?
Yeah, I think the business degree was really cool. In a way, it was kind of generic, where you pretty much realize that the world is a business in itself, and that's just how it operates. So to have a business degree, I kind of learned how the world works on that end, and I can kind of see why companies do certain things. And to me, it really helped me now in my real estate career, having made those connections in business school and even post-secondary in general, right? So people I met at the gym, people I met in the library, and just going through my program are now like some of my close friends and also my clients for real estate, right? So if it wasn't for that route, I probably wouldn't have met them and wouldn't have been at the starting point I was at for real estate, having not gone through post-secondary.
Yeah, true. So with that kind of fundamentals that you learned in undergrad, it's carried over to real estate and those networking opportunities as well. Has those skills and the knowledge that you learned in undergrad, it's helped you, like, has it helped you with your business that you're trying to sell now? Like, with kind of like knowing the fundamentals and the building blocks to a business?
I'll be honest, I think for me, I learned the most through building a business personally. So
Okay.
building LVD in my third year at Carleton with my girlfriend definitely gave me all school was a lot of technical and textbook stuff, which was okay, but putting it into practice and experiencing it yourself is definitely priceless. And I highly suggest anyone and everyone to try to start a business, even if it's a side hustle. It doesn't have to be your full-time thing, just some extra income on the side for fun. You learn a lot about yourself and a lot about the potentials and opportunities out there.
Sure. So with LVD, can you tell the listeners what LVD stood for and what that brand was and what you guys encompass as a company?
Yeah, so LVD was a powerlifting apparel company. We mainly focused on the powerlifting fitness niche. But when we got started in powerlifting, we noticed that powerlifting was really old school and really hardcore. So, like tattoos, beards, and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, it didn't represent me as a
Yeah,
powerlifter. So that's kind of when my partner and I were like, hey, let's maybe start a clothing brand that encompasses other people like us. And that's kind of how we started, and we slowly grew from there. And we also had a give back model where we provided a month of clean water for every item sold. So that was a really cool social aspect to our business to kind of separate ourselves. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah.
awesome. So with that business and you starting that business with Mallory, can you tell me if there were any kind of challenges along the way to kind of start it up to where it is or where it was and it still is? Because I loved LVD, but can you tell me any challenges that you guys faced along the way?
I think honestly, it was just the inexperience and being young, right? So if you were, let's say, even late 20s, early 30s, and you're starting a business, usually you've had at least a career or a certain type of job that would give you some life experience
Yeah,
to put into your business. But like as two young students, like we didn't know like the difference between income tax, HST accounts, incorporating, and all this little things, right? So there was a really big learning curve there, and there really wasn't much guidance besides Google and YouTube,
yeah,
which we used a lot. But going back to the the Carleton piece, we benefited a lot from Carleton because there was internal startup programs that we applied for, got in, and got some like mentorship or at least some guidance to be like, hey, these are lawyers that we work with, or these are accountants. Like, reach out to them, say you're part of Carleton's incubator or whatever, and that kind of gave us an in and a leg up. But definitely, we asked a lot of questions along the way. People think entrepreneurs know all the answers to everything. We don't. You kind of just go at it day by day. And one of my favorite quotes is entrepreneurship is like jumping off a cliff and building your plane on the way down, because you really don't know what you're getting yourself into, and you're
yeah,
just trying your hardest to not die, essentially, right? So yeah. And
true.
also being young, right? So like
Yeah.
ageism is real. Like people look at you and they're like, oh, you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a business owner, you're still a student, right? So they look at your business as not legit. So those were other struggles.
Yeah, for sure. Because I want to use this podcast to kind of deliver content to individuals to let them know that young individuals like yourself who are successful and as an entrepreneur started this company and actually got really big and honestly internationally as well. So it's possible. And I love that quote as well. That's great. I love that quote. But um, what would be some, I guess, what lessons did you take away from this business model and you starting this business with Mallory?
Definitely having a partner who has the same end goal, but also complements your strengths and weaknesses goes a long way. I mean, going into it, we didn't really do the right things of like making sure we both were really compatible business partners, but it
Yeah.
ended up just being that way.
Yeah.
Like I'm more of like a numbers person. She's more of like marketing. I'm like very like high risk, high goals, but she's more realistic. So we always like meet in the middle. We're a good pair. And I think it's rare to find that. And don't underestimate how important it is to have a compatible partner.
Yeah. And I was just going to ask you too, what tips or guidance would you give listeners and viewers if they're starting up like a business or kind of like a side hustle?
What tips could I give them?
Yeah.
I think you should, one, figure yourself figure stuff out completely. Just like work on figuring out what you like, what you don't like, and honestly try everything. So when we first started the business, it wasn't until like our third idea that we decided to do fitness apparel, right? So we just kept trying different things and looking at different avenues that work for us. But even now, I'm always open to different side hustles, and I like dabble in trying to learn certain things, but then I realize that's not really for me. So I think one of the biggest things is just to try any idea that you see, and you never know where it's going to go. And if it doesn't go anywhere, that's totally cool. Just pivot and figure out why it didn't work. And if you didn't like it, there's a reason why you didn't like it. And thank God it didn't like blow up, because you would hate to like do something for like a living that you don't like, right? So
Yeah.
I think that just comes down to figuring out what you like and don't like, and just be open-minded and to try everything.
True. And when did you start LVD? Was it during your undergrad or was it kind of like after?
So it was during my undergrad. It was 2015. I think it was like the end of my third year of Carleton. Um, and we started off as a school project, and we did it pretty smart. Like we didn't like spend a bunch of money into it, waiting to see if it was going to be successful, right? So what we did was
Yeah.
we printed 100 t-shirts, and we were like, listen, we're going to sell our story online to friends and family or whoever we can like tell it to. And if we can sell the 100 shirts, amazing. This is a thing. If not, let's scratch it out and like move on to the next. And within a month and a half, we ended up selling our whole inventory with a bit of a backlog, which was amazing, right? We're like,
That's
okay,
great. Yeah.
there's people who wanted our product, but we didn't have enough inventory. So
Yeah.
we took our profits from our first batch, just reinvested it, got more product, and just slowly kept that cycle going until we eventually got into a grant situation where the Carleton University paid us a grant for being entrepreneurs. So we invested that heavily into the business, and then it kind of snowballed up from there.
That's awesome. I remember that. Well, I don't have the LVD OG shirt, but I remember seeing people have that OG shirt for sure.
Yeah, man, I still have mine. I'm gonna hang it up and just kind of keep it as like a reminder that this is where it all started.
True. That's awesome, Josh. So, did you deal with any stress or anxiety during your time starting up this company and actually doing full-time school?
All the time. Like it
Yeah.
was just like sorry, go ahead.
And I was just going to ask you, so yes, I guess that question, but like, how did you deal with that stress and the anxiety of it, I guess?
Honestly, just that's really tough. Just taking it day by day, having a support system. We had amazing friends and family support that pretty much always believed in us, which is really nice. And just having a partner, right? So entrepreneurship can be very, very lonely, right? So people can see like, let's say some sales that you make, or that you're traveling and going out to all these events, but realistically, you're pretty much in it by yourself. And sometimes your friends and family don't get the conversations that you're having with your head, or certain things that you're going through, because they're not in business. So that really helps to have my partner Mallory to kind of bounce those stress levels and going through the journey together.
Yeah.
But I remember a time specifically when LVD was doing really well. We were a year in business at this point, but I was in my final year of university, and I was in my hardest course. That's like this big like capstone course for business students.
Okay.
And I was also a TA, so I had two classes I was like marking stuff for. And I remember we were at an event in the US, and I had students asking me questions about some assignments. I had a paper due the Monday, and I was also in a booth in front of customers in the
Yeah.
States just trying to sell product. And I broke down. Like I couldn't take it. I had to like leave, go to the hotel room, and like I honestly just like cried it out. I was just so stressed, so anxious. But then I realized why I do things, and I just took it like step by step, right? So instead of like freaking out and doing nothing, I just like made a checklist. I'm like, okay, these are my top priorities. Answer these students so they can get their assignments done. Work on my paper so I can get that done and graduate so I could do this business full time.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, since I did have a partner, Mal was there. She had my back. She could man the booth for a couple hours, right? So
Yeah.
I think that really calmed me down, and just working with a to-do list definitely is a big key.
For sure. So, with that all being said, too, did you have any outlets that you went to kind of relieve that stress as well? Like, was it fitness? Was it meditation? Yeah. What techniques did you use?
I was just going to the gym. I kind of let everything go there, right? It was hard with like the internet, right? So you still have your phone and you have social media that can distract you.
Yeah.
But as I grew and kind of exited LVD, when fitness became our full time, it wasn't fun anymore and it wasn't my outlet. And I think that was one of the major stressors for me because it was my safe space. And when it became my full time job, it wasn't. And I didn't really have anything else. And that kind of, I guess, turned me off on the full time fitness thing. But it also shows the importance of being um, not just in one spot, right? So in
Yeah.
my transition from LVD to real estate, I really got into yoga, and I love doing yoga. I love learning about mindfulness. I'm like reading about meditation and trying to do that more often. I go for like just like walks, talk to myself and just be with my thoughts. But then now my place where I could just get away is outdoor activities. So I love biking, I love snowboarding, I love being outside, and that's kind of where my outlets are right now.
That's awesome. So, transitioning from LVD full time, that was something you didn't want to do, I guess, not for the rest of your life, but you wanted to do something different, right? So, how did you jump into the space of real estate?
Yeah, so I mean, in the beginning, it was like LVD was my baby. I'm like, no, this is gonna be
Yeah.
my job till I die. Like this is it, right? Like I found it, I made it. And then as I got older and looked at the business model a little bit, I was like, okay, maybe selling t-shirts for the rest of my life isn't what I want to do. So I started looking at different options, and my mentor recommended the book Rich Dad Poor Dad to me. So I don't read books at all unless they're for school, and even then it's a struggle.
Me too.
So I was like, okay, let's try to read this book. And surprisingly, I like read through the whole thing. And it's funny because when I think reading, I think it's fiction, right? So I'm like, ah, I'm not really into that. But now, like when I'm so into reading, but none of it's fiction. To me, it's all about like learning about different tools or like self-help type things to make me a better person and a better leader. Anyway, so to backtrack, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it changed my whole mindset about money, investments, and just my whole outlook in life. And the author is really big in real estate, so that kind of opened my eyes. I'm like, okay, like maybe real estate might be an avenue for me. I looked into the career. I'm like, okay, it's like about 6 or 8 months of schooling online on my own time. I'm like, okay, that's pretty reasonable. And when I looked at the industry, to me, real estate was really old school and dated, and they didn't really use social media. So I was like, well, if I could do what I did with LVD into real estate, I think I could be really successful because I can just see the trend going towards real estate, right? So people our age
Yeah.
who bought t-shirts and whatever back in the day, now they're looking at homes, right? And people don't want to use some old, almost expired realtor that their parents use. Like they want to use someone who they get along with, who's young and share common interests, right? And what better way to get in front of those people and provide value is through social media, right? No one's
Yeah.
going to go through like a yellow pages or look at Google reviews. Maybe they do, fine. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if you could follow a realtor that you like on social, it makes it a lot easier to just educate yourself on those type of content.
No, for sure. And I follow you, of course, and just seeing how you have been able to deliver, I guess, your I would say marketing posts of like the houses, and kind of how you educate others as well has been like phenomenal, because I feel like everything in this life in terms of like business has been transitioned to social media anyways. So that's awesome. The networking opportunities that you had to with LVD, the first business you had, I think that's great too, because our age demographic is kind of moving towards buying houses. So you're a great connection to all those individuals and your friends too. So that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Like LVD was definitely a stepping stone. Obviously, I built an audience, and not all my audience is in Ottawa, but I was still able to build that trust with a certain amount of people through my first business, and that carries over to real estate now. So, and
Yeah,
it's really cool. Like, one of my first deals in my first year was an OG LVD Fitness customer. So he literally went from buying T-shirts to buying homes with me. It was
that's
really
sick.
cool. Yeah.
That's sick. Can you tell me the process of getting through real estate school, and are there any exams at the end to certify you?
Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. There's 5 courses, and after each course, there's an exam. It's multiple choice, 50 questions, and you need 75%. And to me, it was pretty straightforward. If you've done post-secondary and kind of know how to study, it really isn't that hard. And it's at your own pace, right? So you sign up for the first course and you put in exam dates. I usually do a month to 2 months away. That gives me plenty of time to study the material and review it. And
Yeah.
then from there, once you pass that course, you don't have to do the next one until you're ready, right? So if you had, let's say, a busy month of work at your real job, you don't have to sign up for the next course just yet. You could probably do it in a couple months, and then just kind of continue that process, which was nice, right? So it wasn't traditional schooling where you had to do it from a certain time frame. It was
Yeah.
kind of like go at your own pace and all online.
True. And then just to for the viewers, listeners, and myself, can you tell us what the job responsibilities as a real estate agent entails, I guess?
Yeah, realtors represent buyers and sellers in the transaction of real estate. On the buyer side, I help you find a home that fits your criteria and kind of guides you through that whole process. And on the seller side, I guide you through selling your place, handling the whole process from putting up that listing sign to getting a signed contract with an above asking price based off our current market these days.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's honestly, it's a people business. People think real estate is like houses and then all that, which it is, but it's all about people management, managing emotions, managing your clients, and getting leads, right? So it's a fun career to be in if you're a
Nice.
people person.
Yeah. And you for sure are a people person. So what's your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job is helping people buy a home as a millennial in this crazy world where home ownership is slowly, no, not even slowly, quickly becoming a thing of the past, right?
Yeah.
So there's even major cities in Canada now where people our age can't buy homes because of investors, the prices of homes, right? So I think every time I can find someone a home and get that under contract makes me feel really good, because I know it's going to set them up for long-term wealth, because real estate can help you down the line provide for your family long term,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's a really valuable asset to have. I know there's like the people who are going to say, if you're living in your home, it's not an asset, but there's ways you can utilize your home to leverage money so that you can pay for certain things like a car or your child's post-secondary fees.
No, for sure. And I'm always curious, I guess, based on the house market here in Toronto, can you tell me, even in Ottawa or any major city with the increase in market for houses, why is that? And like, yeah, I guess like, can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think for Ottawa, or not Ottawa, sorry, Canada, we have a lot of immigration. So we have people moving into the country from all different areas, right? And
Yeah.
everyone's going to need homes. Plus, we have people in Canada who are needing homes as well. So immigration mixed with super low interest rates. So people are able to borrow more money now versus a year or two ago. Um, Mixed in with low inventories of homes, right? There's just too many people wanting homes versus the homes actually being built. Like the timeline to building a home could take like 2 years, right? So,
Yeah.
and someone can move to Canada like in a month's time. I don't actually know how quick you can move to Canada, but I feel like it's quicker than building a home, right? So builders are
Yeah.
trying to keep up, and um, it'll be really interesting though, because with COVID and jobs kind of going remote more permanently, I could see people living in the country and just, or like cottage land, and just
Yeah.
having a water property without having to move into the city. And it's good and bad. Like, so like homes in the city might slow down a bit, but on the outskirts where it's way more cheaper, those prices are skyrocketing because people just want more land and they're open to being more outside the city, versus before you needed to commute and be close to work, right? So that's
Yeah.
why a lot of like the condos in Toronto were nearing like over $500,000.
Oh, okay, true. And with the pandemic over the last year, almost eclipsing a year, has it impacted your job and how you conduct, I guess, open houses and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, not really. So real estate is considered essential, and pretty much all of our services are still allowed to happen except for an open house. So I can't have have a sign being like, hey, anyone can come through this place Sunday from 2 to 4, right? Now everything has to be private showings. And that way you have your realtor or professional who can vet the clients and make sure that everyone's sanitized and following procedures
Yeah.
going through the homes, right? So it hasn't really changed our process, especially with like in the last 5 years. Like e-signature is so common now with
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
estate. So the majority of real estate is and can be virtual. To me, I still like meeting clients in person, but in theory, like you could do Zoom calls or phone calls with a client. The only thing you have to do in person is showing, like showing them the actual property. But even then, when COVID started, people were buying homes through like photos and videos and just virtual walkthroughs. They weren't even seeing it in person, right? So that was really interesting to see, and I could definitely see real estate becoming more virtual in a way. Um, and then the other aspect was COVID affecting people's income, which is pretty
Yeah.
much obvious, right? If you lost your job, or if there's so much uncertainty, you don't want to pull a trigger on a really big purchase,
Yeah.
then it's going to slow down some buyers. But because we're in Ottawa, or if you have a very stable job and work from home, pretty much didn't slow anything down.
True. With your job as a real estate agent, what are the most difficult challenges you face day to day?
It would be uncertainty. So people, even though real estate is a job, all realtors are self-employed, or most realtors are self-employed. They're contractors. They run their own business. I recently incorporated my business. So yeah, the uncertainty. You're only as good as your last sale, and it's like things with the pandemic. You just never know what's going to happen. People are going to lose their jobs. Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah.
one of the hardest things. And it's just getting new clients as a realtor. Like we're in a lead generation business. We're not like
Yeah.
the home business, right? Like
Yeah.
you could be the best negotiator out there, but if you have no clients to
Yeah.
negotiate for,
For sure.
it doesn't mean anything, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, anyone who's listening to this, if you're in Ottawa, check out Josh Reyes. He's he'll hook you up. Really
Appreciate
nice
it.
guy for sure. So moving on from real estate, I just want to talk about a little bit about powerlifting and how you got into the sport.
Yeah, so in high school and like all throughout my life, I played sports. And when I got to university, I wasn't good enough to make any varsity teams like from high school. So
Okay.
like first year, I didn't really do anything, but then I realized I missed playing sports. I missed being part of a team. So my second year, I started exploring different clubs that I could join. And honestly, powerlifting wasn't even on my radar. I was into the fitness. I was into like going to the gym, but I was looking at like rowing, or like even the football team. Actually, I tried out for that, made it to the very last cut, didn't make it. But I think when I was trying out for the football team, getting stronger, one of the powerlifters noticed my squat, and they were like, "Have you ever considered powerlifting?" I'm like, "No, like what's that?" Told me about it. I'm like, "Okay, whatever." Like I'm not really into like lifting, but I want to do football. And when football didn't happen, I kind of went back to them, and I'm like, "Could I join the powerlifting team? I don't know." So then he kind of gave me the rundown. They tested my squat, bench, deadlift. They said I was a natural, made me feel really good. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is a thing I could do. started researching it, watching YouTube videos, following some people on social media, and that's kind of how I got into it.
True.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yo, I didn't know you played football or tried out. That's funny.
Yeah, man. So as a Filipino, every Filipino plays basketball. Every
Yeah,
Filipino
yeah,
has
basketball.
a, yeah, has a dream of being in the NBA, blah blah blah, which is fine. But I got into football a little bit later through some high school friends, like middle school friends, who
Yeah.
played it like all their lives. And man, the second I got into a football team or a football uniform, I was in love. Like I love playing football. And even though I got into it late, I was still able to be a good player. And I tried out for the Carleton team because that year the Carleton team came back. So they had like a 20-year absence of being in the not NCAA,
CIS?
CIS, whatever. Yeah,
OUA, yeah, OUA.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, so they were out of that. So they were coming back and they're had open tryouts. So I'm like, that's an amazing opportunity for me. Tried out, and I ended up getting to the last cut, and they cut me because they didn't need any DBs. So they already had
Okay,
enough. They
true.
already had enough recruits, which was unfortunate. Um, anyway, so that got me into powerlifting. I got a co-op position with the football team.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so then I was still part of the team. I was like with the coaches, with the players in the locker room. So I still kind of got a little bit of that experience, which was cool, but still salty I didn't make the team though.
True. That's awesome. I guess I learned something new every day. I didn't know you played football, you played DV, tried out, and then that's how you got into powerlifting. But going off of going still like talking about powerlifting, what was your favorite part about powerlifting?
To me, the community. I think the community was really cool.
Facts.
Very like tight knit, but also like wide, like wide. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
like you could be like best friends with someone from BC, never met them, but like you can like call them up on anything and just always chat. And when you see them in person at a meet, it's like you've always known who they were, which was
Yeah.
such a weird thing.
It is,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, the community for sure.
I love that too. It was freaking hilarious because when I got into powerlifting too, I was just like, I knew who you were, and then it's just like whatever. And then you were super chill, so it was just like kind of like it was natural. But the
Right.
community is the biggest part.
Hmm.
Out of the three lifts, what was your favorite lift?
I was the best at deadlift, but I think my favorite lift was squats.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was the lift? I guess bench then was bench like the most difficult lift for you?
Yeah. Could not. I have long arms, man.
True. Um, I guess for good old time's sakes, what was your three best lifts ever in the gym or in the comp?
My three best lifts overall was a 575 squat, a 345 bench, and a 655 deadlift.
True. So with powerlifting, what stages did you compete on? Was it national, international, provincial, regional?
The whole works. So I went from actually I didn't compete in regionals because I didn't have to because it wasn't a
Oh,
thing. And when
true.
regionals became a thing, I've already done a nationals previous, so I was like exempt. So I've never done a regional meet, but I've done anything from local, provincial, national, and in 2016, I went to Worlds in Texas, which was a really cool experience.
Nice. And with powerlifting, what was the most difficult part about powerlifting? Was it kind of like the sheer determination to finish sets, or what was it for you?
For me, I want to say it was just the day in and day out of working out and training. I didn't really enjoy training or peaking. Like peaking was tough, but the day where you would like peak, like on competition or during your cycle there, the best. Like you just feel your strongest. You like surprise yourself. You get PRs. That's the best feeling. But like the lead up to that was the worst. So
And
much work.
what weight class did you compete at?
Competed at 74 and 83. So
Nice.
I've actually always gradually went up. I've never actually cut hard. So I started off as like a really light 74, eventually filled out 74, and then I was a light 83 and then filled out 83.
Damn, I didn't know you were a light 74.
Yeah, when I first started, I was like 160, 159. I was like light.
Damn.
Yeah. And I was
Damn.
trying to be a DB. Like now it doesn't make sense. I'm like, man, I was tiny.
Yeah, for real. Um, So kind of like, I guess we're gonna shoot the shit now and kind of just chat about things. So I know you're into the NBA, and so who's your favorite team? Like, who do you root for?
I'm actually not that into the NBA. Like
Really?
I used to be really into basketball and like sports and stuff. But then like with school and entrepreneurship, I really just fell off. Like I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love watching it. I keep up with like headlines, but I don't watch like day to day. Like I don't watch like if a player's injured and like how many games they've missed. Like I don't even watch that. Right now I pretty much just watch the playoffs and just like cheer for the Raptors and yeah. Before it was the Celtics. The Celtics were my team when I was like really into it. But yeah, I fell off sports, man.
True. I guess you're just a busy guy. Um,
Yeah,
I guess if you do stay in touch with basketball, who is the most exciting player for you to watch,
for me to
or
watch.
still is, if you watch in playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I love LeBron.
Like, go.
Yeah, LeBron, Curry's sweet. Um, yeah, just the main guys. Pretty basic.
True. And then with music, who are you listening to right now? Your top three artists, top three, top five.
Sorry, you froze there. So music. I'm in a really weird like a music funk right now. Not funk, but just like place. Like I'm so into country. Like 2 years ago, I slowly got into it. Last year, I was a big country head, and now I still am. I pretty much listen to like all country and like Drake. Like that's pretty.
Drake and
That's
country.
that's that's pretty much it. Yeah, like country, like Kane Brown, Luke Combs, who else? Sam Hunt. Like those are my dudes.
Yeah, I love those guys too.
Yeah, man.
Uh, Going off those three dudes, Luke Combs, what's your favorite song from him?
Oh, put me on the spot. Beautiful crazy. I don't know. That's one of his top ones.
Yeah, it's his classic one. Okay, Sam Hunt,
Forever
what's
After All. Okay, go ahead. Sam Hunt. Um, Sam Hunt got me into country. It was one of his song. What's it called? Damn. It
Body
was
Like a
one where he's
Back Road?
no. It was like one where he wasn't really singing. He was more like talking. It was like more,
Oh,
you know what I mean? It was on the
wasn't it a
radio.
breakup song? It's a breakup song.
I think so. I think so. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a
So,
sad
but
song.
it is. But that got me into country. I don't know. I don't know why.
True. And then with your busy schedule, do you keep up with any TV series or yeah, TV series?
Yeah. So I still do watch Netflix. TV series. What am I watching right now? Um, really got into Modern Family. I think that like I never really watched Modern Family, but when that got on Netflix, I just started binging it from season one. Almost done it now. I was into Rust to Riches. It's like a car show. It's like a car flipping show.
Yeah.
Super cool. Like it wasn't what I expected, and they have a really cool business model of what they do. Um, yeah, they like turn like old cars into something that someone would buy, and then they would sell it or flip it for another beater, but they could sell for even more. And
Yeah.
their goal is to go from like $1,000 beater car to like a six-figure car. It's
That's
really
amazing.
cool.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I don't know, just like
That is
little
cool.
things. Yeah.
That is cool. And kind of to end off this podcast, I want you to describe yourself in one word.
One word,
Yeah,
resourceful.
resourceful. And
Yeah.
tell me why.
Tell you why,
Yeah.
man. Like, if I could say, if anyone asks what's one skill they can work on to make them successful, it's being resourceful, and that's through like everything that I've done. So powerlifting, entrepreneurship, real estate. It's just being able to grow and learn on your own 2 feet is so important, right? So I have friends who still text me and they ask me like certain questions. I'm like, bro, you could Google that and get the result in like 1 second, and they just don't even think of that.
Yeah.
Or like, fine, like it may be something a little bit more complicated, but I could watch like one or two YouTube videos and I would get it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what people underestimate. You have like all the resources out there for you in the internet, and you need to like take advantage of that. And when I mean like be resourceful, it's also like be creative in like little things. Like we did so many hacky things in business with LVD, and that's just because we didn't have money, and we found different ways to figure out our problems without using a lot of money. And that's kind of why I would describe myself as resourceful.
True. Nice. Um, I'm gonna cut this scene out, I guess, and just put it into like the, I guess, the more serious podcast portion. But
Sure.
I was just gonna ask you, did you have any role models or anyone you looked up to kind of guide you through your life?
Yeah, so one of the longest ones, and still is my mom. My mom has been like such a strong pillar, not to myself only, but also to my family. She was the first one to immigrate to Ottawa, or Canada even, from like my family in the Philippines, and she slowly brought everyone over. Like she sponsored them, she like provided for them, whatever, got them jobs. And to me, that was really sweet on one side. But on the other side, like she works her ass off, and she
Yeah.
still does. And she's so good with money, but her English isn't the best, but she's like still so smart with money. And it just amazes me the way she thinks. And she doesn't think like your traditional Canadian, right? Like she thinks outside the box and like survival and like thinks for the future, right? So I think her challenges the way I think to be different.
I love that because that I feel the same way, and I feel like my dad's the same way. He thinks outside the box, so great with his money. Kind of came
Hmm.
here like your mom with nothing, and then built
Right.
himself up, right? So it's super like that's who I look up to as well. Just like him built from nothing. He's like started from the bottom, and now he's here. I guess like what Drake would say.
Exactly. And then like that's like my main motivation, or someone I look up to. And like through my life in different stages, there's like people that come and go, that I follow. And I think that's appropriate for where you're at in life. But you can only watch so much Gary Vee before getting tired of the same message and already getting it. So you move on into the next thing, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
for real. So another question. What are your like long-term goals, I guess, with real estate, or do you have another career that you want to pursue?
So if you asked me this last month, I would have said real estate, hardcore. This is going to be like my long term. I'm going to build it till I die. Kind of the same mindset I had with LVD. But Mal made me realize something different, and she's already at this stage because she gets tired and bored of things quickly, right? And she's, I guess, kind of afraid of commitment, but not in a bad way, right? And I realized that I'm just gonna go with the flow and keep growing. If real estate's gonna be my thing long term, amazing. I'll rock with that. But if real estate ends in 3 years and I'm opening a really successful coffee shop, I'm down for that too. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's not really about a specific career, it's more about a lifestyle. To me, what I want to do is do what I want to do, be financially free or financially stable to do whatever I want and provide for my family. I think those are the biggest things for me, despite what career I'm doing.
I love that. I love that. Yo, that's gonna be a soundbite on my Instagram. I love that quote, just like what you just said right there. Like it's
Thanks, man. Yeah, like
and I guess it's like uncertainty too, right? You don't know, like you said earlier.
exactly. And
Yeah,
be open minded, right? Like, again, because I'm in real estate now, real estate could be taken over by robots in 10 years because of the way tech
yeah,
is, and I
yeah.
could be out of a job. But I'm always trying to stay on top of trends and just like educate myself just so if I do have to make a pivot, I know where to go.
All right. So thank you, Josh, for coming on to the podcast, man. Truly an inspiration to myself and I feel like for other individuals as well. You've ran a successful business with Mal, and then now you're, I don't know, transitioning to another career, and you're doing super well. So kudos to you, and I just want to say thank you again. And it's been a great conversation for sure, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And again, thanks to you. Like you and your brother have supported us from a really early time, and I can't thank you enough for that. So there's still some really close friends of mine that I grew up with who still don't support what I do. So it's people like you and that I meet through the internet that keeps me going, you know. So thank you.
Thank you, man. And I hope everyone enjoyed this episode.